We are back with part 4 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life Version, TLV. And this week we are doing the introduction and chapters 1 through 14 of Jeremiah. And we are already up to chapter 11. And then we're going to recap it. What's going to happen is we'll recap it, say a closing prayer, and I'm going to open it up then to the altar call. And then also we'll end it with the Aaronic blessing, which is also known as the priestly blessing. Chapter 11, Curse of the Covenant. The word that came to Jeremiah from Adonai, saying, Hear the words of this covenant and speak to the people of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Now say to them, Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, Cursed is the one who does not obey the words of this covenant, which I commanded your forefathers in the day I brought them out of the land of Egypt, out of the iron furnace, saying, Listen to my voice and do all that I command you. Then you will be my people, and I will be your God. Then I will fulfill the oath which I swore to your fathers to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as it is today. In response I said, Amen, Adonai. Then Adonai said to me, Proclaim all these words in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, Hear the words of this covenant and do them, for I earnestly forewarned your fathers in the day that I brought them up out of the land of Egypt until this day, forewarning early and often, saying, Listen to my voice. Yet they would not obey or incline their ear, but each one walked in the stubbornness of his evil heart. Therefore I brought on them all the words of this covenant which I commanded them to do, but they did not. Then Adonai said to me, A conspiracy has been discovered among the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They have turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers who refused to hear my words. They have gone after other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant which I made with their fathers. Therefore, thus says Adonai, I will soon bring disaster on them, that they will not be able to escape. They will cry out to me, yet I will not listen to them. Then the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem will go and cry out to the gods to whom they burn incense, but they will not save them at all in the time of their trouble. For as numerous as your cities your are your gods, O Judah, and as numerous as the streets of Jerusalem are the altars you have set up to the shameful thing, altars to burn incense to Baal. As for you, you are not to pray for this people or lift up supplication or prayer for them, for I will not hear them at the time they cry to out to me, as they cry. I'm sorry, tongue tied there. Blah, as they cry out to me because of their disaster. So there again, he's basically saying, I'm coming to the end of the line here, where I'm just going to bring on disaster. They're not listening, and you, Jeremiah, I don't even want you to pray for them because I'm really at the end of the line here, and I'm bringing disaster. Olive tree with broken branches. What is my beloved doing in my house, as she does evil schemes with many? Can holy meat prevent your disaster, so you may rejoice? Adonai called your name a leafy olive tree, beautiful with well-formed fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he has set it on fire, and its branches are broken. For Adonai Sabaoth, who planted you, has pronounced evil against you because of the evil of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah, which they have done to themselves, provoking me by offering sacrifices to Baal. Moreover, Adonai gave me knowledge of it, and I knew it. Then you showed me their deeds. But I was like a gentle lamb led to the slaughter. I did not know they had devised plots against me. Let us destroy the tree with its fruit. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, so that his name will be no more remembered. But Adonai Sabaoth, who judges righteously, who tests the mind and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them. For to you I have made my cause known. Therefore thus says Adonai concerning the men of Anathoth, who seek your life, saying, You must not prophesy in the name of Adonai, so you would not die by our hand. Therefore thus says Adonai Sebaot, I am about to punish them. The young men will die by the sword. Their sons and their daughters will die by famine. No remnant will be left to them, for I will bring calamity on the men of Anathoth the year of their visitation. And that is the end of chapter 11. And there's a bunch of footnotes here that I'm going to go through, and we're going to go look at them. So when we're talking a little bit about the olive tree with the broken branches, we're also talking about the original olive tree, which is Israel. And through Yeshua, as we know, the Gentiles were grafted, the Gentile believers, I want to say, which today are known as Christians, were grafted in as the wild olive branch later. Hebrews 8, verse 10 is a footnote here in Jeremiah. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days. After the days that we're talking about here, says Adonai, I will put my Torah into their mind and upon their hearts I will write it, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Here's also a footnote in the Brit Kadashah, 1 John, chapter 5, verse 16. It reads, if anyone sees his brother committing a sin not leading to death, he should ask, and God will give life to those who commit sin not leading to death. There is a sin leading to death. I am not saying you should ask about that. So that was another cross-reference to the Brit Kadashah, and also Romans 11, verse 17. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them and become a partaker of the root of the olive tree with its richness. So we're talking about the original olive tree, like I had mentioned. So this I'm going to go further to read the other verses that are attached to this, because I don't like to just pick up one verse and not look at what's really being said in the full context. What is being said is not for Gentiles not to boast, because what happened to the original olive tree and the branches being broken can actually happen as well to the Gentiles. And I'm going to go back here and read this whole segment. If the first fruit is holy, so is the whole batch of dough. But if the root is holy, so are the branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them, and became a partaker of the root of the olive tree with its richness, do not boast against the branches. But if you do not boast, it is not you who support the root, but the root supports you. You will then say, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. True enough. They were broken off because of unbelief, and you stand by faith. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Notice that the kindness and severity of God's severity towards those who fell, but God's kindness towards you if you continue in his kindness. Otherwise, you too will be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in their unbelief, can be grafted back in. So if they turn from their ways and believe, they can be grafted back in. For God is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut out of that which by nature is a wild olive tree and grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? So there's that context there, that parallel here. When we're talking about broken branches of the olive tree, Jeremiah is talking about this sinful nation being broken and cut off from God as they're about to go into captivity. Um, So it's also addressed in the Brit Kadashah. So yes, history does repeat itself, as we definitely learn that over and over again as we go through the Bible. Chapter 12, why do the wicked prosper? Righteous are you, Adonai, when I plead my case with you. Yet I speak with you about justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the treacherous thrive? You planted them, so they have taken root. They are growing, bearing fruit. You are near in their mouth, yet far from their mind. But you have known me, Adonai. You see me and examine my heart towards you. Drag them off like sheep for slaughter. Set them apart for the day of carnage. How long will the land mourn, and the grass of all the field wither? Because those living in it are evil, beasts and birds are swept away. For they said, He cannot see our end. If you raced with those on foot, and they wore you out, how can you compete with horses? If you are secure in a land of peace, how will you do in Jordan's thickets? For even your brothers, your father's house, even they will betray you, even they will shout out after you. Have no confidence in them, even if they say nice words to you. I have abandoned my house, I have forsaken my inheritance, I have given the beloved of my soul into the hand of your enemies. My inheritance became to me like a lion in the forest. Her voice roared against me, therefore I despised her. Is my inheritance a speckled vulture? Are vultures circling all around her? Go gather all the wild beasts, bring them for devouring. And that's the section, Why Do the Wicked Prosper? And there's a footnote here in the book of James. In the Messianic Bible, it's known as the book of Jacob, and not James. Chapter 5, Verse 5 reads, You have lived on the earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts for a day of slaughter. You have condemned, you have murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. So I'm going to continue with chapter 12, Atomized Vineyard in ruins. Many shepherds ruined my vineyard. They trampled my property. They made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They made it a wasteland. It mourns before me desolate. The whole land will be laid waste, because no one takes it to heart. On all the bare hills in the wilderness, destroyers have come. For the sword of Adonai is devouring from the one end of the land to the other end of the land. No flesh has shalom. They sowed wheat but reaped thorns. They wore themselves out, gaining nothing. So be ashamed of your harvest because of Adonai's fierce anger. Thus says Adonai, as for all my evil neighbors who strike at the inheritance that I bequeath to my people Israel, I am about to uproot them from their land and pluck the house of Judah from them. Yet it will come to pass, after I have uprooted them, that I will again have compassion on them, and I will bring them back, each one to his inheritance, and each one to his land. So it will come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear to, to swear by my name as Adonai lives, just as they taught my people to swear by Baal, then they will build up in the midst of my people. But if they will not obey, then I will uproot that nation, plucking it up and destroying it. It is a declaration of Adonai. Chapter 13. Linen waistband and wine jugs. Thus Adonai said to me, Go and buy yourself a linen waistband and put it around your waist, and do not put it in water. So I got a waistband in keeping with the word of Adonai and put it on my waist. Then the word of Adonai came to me a second time, saying, Take the waistband that you bought, which is on your waist, and get up, go to Pereth, and hide it there in a cleft of the rock. So I went and hid it at Pereth, as Adonai commanded me. Now it came to pass after many days that Adonai said to me, Get up, go to Pereth, and take the waistband that I commanded you to hide there. So I went to Pereth, dug it up, and took the waistband from the place where I had hidden it. But to my surprise, the waistband was marred, worth nothing at all. Then the word of Adonai came to me, saying, Thus says Adonai, just so I will mar the pride of Judah and the great pride of Jerusalem, this wicked people who refuse to hear my words, who walk in stubbornness of their own heart, and go after other gods to serve them and worship them, will be just like this waistband, worth nothing at all. For just as the waistband clings to a man's waist, so I will make the whole house of Israel and the whole house of Judah cling to me, declares Adonai, to be to me a people a name, a praise, and a glory, but they would not obey. Moreover, speak this word to them. Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, every jug should be filled with wine. When they say to you, don't we know very well that every jug should be filled with wine? Then you will say to them, thus says Adonai, I'm about to fill all the inhabitants of this land, even the kings who sit on David's throne, the Kohanim, the prophets, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, with drunkenness. And I will smash them against each other, even fathers and sons, says Adonai. I will show no pity, no regret, nor compassion to keep me from destroying them. And the last section of chapter 13 is darkness and downfall. Hear and give ear. Do not be haughty, for Adonai has spoken. Give glory to Adonai your God before it grows dark, and before your feet stumble on mountains at dusk. When you look for light, he turns it into the shadow of death and turns it into deep darkness. But if you will not listen, my soul will sob in secret before such pride, and my eyes will weep bitterly and overflow with tears, for Adonai's flock will be taken captive. Say to the king and the queen mother, sit down low, for your glorious crown has fallen from your head. The towns of the south will be shut up, with no one to open them, and all Judah is taken into exile, utterly swept into exile. Lift up your eyes and see those coming from the north. Where is the flock given to you, you beautiful sheep? What will you say when he sets up the allies you cultivated for yourself over you as head? Will not labor pains seize you like a woman in travail? Suppose you say in your heart, why did these things happen to me? Because of your great iniquity, your skirts are uncovered, and your heels suffer violence. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? So could you do good that are accustomed to doing evil. Therefore I will scatter them like drifting straw in the desert wind. This is your lot, the portion measured for you from me. It is a declaration of Adonai. For you have forgotten me and trusted in falsehood. Therefore I will also uncover your skirts over your face, expose your shame, your adulteries, your lustful neighings, the lewdness of your prostitution. On the hills in the field I have seen your loathsome acts. Oi, you Jerusalem, you are unclean. How much longer? And that's the end of chapter 13. Chapter 14. Physical and spiritual drought. The word of Adonai came to Jeremiah concerning the drought. Judah will mourn and her gates languish. They will bow in black to the ground, and Jerusalem's wail will go up. Their nobles will send their lads for water. They come to the cisterns, but find no water. Their jars return empty. They are ashamed and humiliated. They cover their heads because the ground is cracked. Since there has been no rain in the land, the farmers are ashamed. They cover their heads, for even the doe in the field abandons her newborn fawn. Because there is no grass, wild donkeys stand on the barren hills as they pant for air like jackals. Their eyes fail since there is no foliage. Though our iniquities testify against us, Adonai, act for your name's sake, for our backslidings are many. We have sinned against you, O hope of Israel, Savior in time of trouble. Why are you like a stranger in the land, or like a traveler who stays for a night? Why are you like a man overcome, like a champion who cannot save? Yet you, Adonai, are in our midst, and we are called by your name. Do not forsake us. Thus says Adonai to this people, how they love to wander. They did not restrain their feet. So Adonai does not accept them, nor will he remember their iniquity and punish their sins. Now will he remember their iniquity and punish their sins. So Adonai said to me, do not pray for the good of this people. If they fast, I will not hear their cry. If they offer burnt offerings or grain offerings, I will not accept them. Instead, I will consume them with sword and with famine and plague. Then I said, oh, my Lord Adonai, the prophets keep telling them, you will not see the sword nor famine, but I will give you true peace in this place. Then Adonai said to me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I did not send them, nor commanded them, nor did I speak to them. They are prophesying to you a lying vision, divination, futility, a delusion of their heart. Therefore, thus says Adonai about the prophets who prophesy in my name. Though I did not send them, yet keep saying, sword and famine will never be in this land. By sword and famine will those prophets be consumed. Also the people to whom they prophesy will be thrown out into the streets of Jerusalem because of the famine and sword. They will have no one to bury them, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, for I will pour their disaster on them. You will say this word to them, let my eyes overflow with tears. Night and day may they never stop, for the virgin daughter of my people is crushed with a great blow, with a sorely infected wound. Intercessory confession. If I go out into the field, see those slain by the sword, and if I enter into the city, see the sick with famine. For both prophet and Kohen will travel to a land they do not know. Have you utterly rejected Judah? Has your soul loathed Zion? Why have you smitten us, and there is no healing for us? We looked for shalom, but nothing good came, and for a time of healing, but suddenly terror. We acknowledge our wickedness, Adonai, the iniquity of our fathers, for we have sinned against you. Do not despise us for your name's sake. Do not dishonor your glorious throne. Remember your covenant with us. Do not break it. Can any of the idols of the nations bring rain? Or can the skies grant showers? Is it not you, Adonai, our God? Do we not wait for you? For we have done all these things. And that's the end of chapter 14. So just a little word, there was false prophets back in Jeremiah's days, and we're also warned of false prophecy, to stay away from false prophets as well. There's a verse that is in the footnotes here, and that's First Thessalonians 5, verse 3. When they are saying shalom and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them like a woman having birth pains in the womb. There is no way they will escape. And this is what's about to happen to the southern kingdom of Judah. And Adonai is actually telling them, and actually telling them through Jeremiah, but they don't want to hear what Jeremiah has to say. They want to listen to the false prophets. And I'm going to pause this and come back with another part. And in doing so, I'm going to kind of recap what we've read so far, kind of give a summary of what we've done so far, and then do a closing prayer. And then we're going to open it to an altar call and then do the Aaronic blessing.